Hey everyone, welcome to World Voice Day Do Over because the first time I forgot to actually put my mic on. So that was ironic on World Voice Day being silent. I did a full hour of this. The entire time my mic was on mute. I have it now not on mute, so we're gonna get through this. We're gonna get through this together. Okay. Um, So, welcome everyone. Let's pretend it's World Voice Day. It was back on April 14th, or was it 16th? Now I can't. So April 16th. Okay. Um, and I wanted to do the theme of vocal health, partially because that's what the theme was anyway, but also because our voices are a lot more important than we think that they are. And actually, live stream, let me turn this off because this air is so loud. Hold on. Okay. um, this is how you know it's live. Um, so vo- our voices, the number one job of our vocal tract is to stop us from choking, getting food and water into our lungs. So we think of it as it's actually number one job is to make noise. But if you think about the mechanism is closing, the vocal folds are closing over the airway. When we swallow, they close. Our whole vocal tract tightens. And so if you damage those vocal cords, then that's it. People who permanently damage them to a point where they won't close have to be fed through a tube, let alone talking. But we are going to talk about the mental health side of voice as well. Voices are so personal to us. And when something goes wrong, if you don't take care of your voice further down the road, you can develop issues with it that can totally change the way you sing, could totally change the way that you speak because of the fact that they can't close the way that they're supposed to. And you start to lose your identity. And when that happens, you start isolating yourself, you start getting low self esteem. And that way just leads to a snowball of mental health issues, all related to your voice. And I've seen videos. I might share them at some point. I don't have any lined up, um, but you can see videos of people who have gone to laryngologists with vocal problems and just how emotional that issue is. So let's even put the fact that it's saving your life aside. Their secondary job is to make sound, and that sound is so personal. And if you think about it, our neck is the bottleneck. It is this small tube that sits between our brain and our brainstem all the way to the rest of our body. And it all connects in this little space right here with everything tunneling through it. So anything that affects your voice is going to affect so many things. Your thyroid sits right on top of your larynx. It's right next to your voice, right in the voice box, right there. Um, all of the vagus nerve, all of these really important systems go your brainstem, your spine, your esophagus, your trachea, all of these things to eat, to live, all pass through this. So we are going to get a little nerdy, but I am not just saying this as yet another thing. Oh, well, I have these other things to take care of. No, your voice is so important. And there are little things that you can do to help take care of your voice so that it can last well into old age. Um, and if you're already experiencing some issues, you can I highly recommend going to a laryngologist and going and getting, scoped. So they will stick a camera through your nose, down your throat. It sounds way worse than it is. I'm not gonna say it's comfortable, but they numb everything. I've done it twice. It's if I can deal with it, anybody can. And they look at how your voice comes together and they can actually diagnose any kind of issues if you happen to have them. And one of the reasons that I am talking about this today also is because I am a singer, I am a voice teacher, and this is my life. And when I went to a laryngologist, I started having problems a few years ago when I moved from Houston to Boulder County in Colorado. I started having all these issues with my voice, and I went and got scoped and found that I had vocal edema, which means swelling of the vocal cords, and a pre-nodule, which is a little hard bump on your vocal cords that keeps it from closing. So my vocal cords weren't closing completely. They were still mostly closing because it was a pre-nodule. But if I had continued down the path that I was continuing down, it would have developed into a hard nodule, and that's a lot harder to treat. Um, and so I started to really, really dig into vocal health. I was already a bit of a nerd on vocal health, but I really started digging into it so that I could help my voice because this is my livelihood. And I wanted to make sure that I was doing the best by my vocal cords that I could. So, what I learned, I'm sharing with you today. So, all right. And then at the end, I don't have anybody here today, but some people did from the last time send some questions in. So I'm going to go ahead and read those out afterwards. It might help if I had it up, but we'll see. All right. So I'm Dev from Fiercely Vocal Studio. What direction am I going? Fiercely Vocal. This is my studio that I'm in right now. I don't have a microphone, so it might be a little bit echoey. That's okay. Sometimes we want a little echo. Um, I am a vocal and performance coach. I've been teaching for almost 9 years now. Voice, I've been singing my whole life. And when I started to teach vocals, I really wanted to dig into not only the science aspect of it, but the personal aspect as well, and the performance aspect. A lot of times we're just running through scales when we go to a voice teacher, and I don't want that. I don't want to just do that because what do you learn? I like to learn, I like to teach the vocal track to be free, to be able to work freely without all of this constriction and without us having to think about it. And I want our one song that we have in ourselves, the life that we live, to be the fullest that it can be, to spread the light, to spread the joy, to spread your true self. So I want anybody who wants to sing, I want them to sing, and I want them to sing and perform with confidence. So let's get into vocal health. This is for people who are singers, but it's also for people who are speakers. So if you talk a lot, actually, if you just talk at all, this is good for you. But especially for people who have who use their voices a lot, I teach some teachers, people who speak for a living. They actually go around and do talks for a living. Anytime you have to use your voice a lot, this can all help. So we'll get into what strain and constriction is first. So, what's happening physically is that, like I said, your vocal tract, that means everything from, I'm going to have to get, see, live. Let me get my little model. I got two models. I got my side model here, and then I have the larynx here. And this is your whole vocal tract. This is your larynx. And this whole mechanism from here all the way down there, it constricts, meaning it squeezes, it contracts, it comes together in order to move food and drink up, close off of the airways. So your esophagus and your trachea, your food pipe and your windpipe, they are really close together. It's really kind of dangerous, actually. Um, and because they're just right next to each other, it's really important that the food and drink get moved down through the esophagus and that the trachea, the air pipe, closes off so that no food and drink get into your lung because then you can aspirate. And you don't want that. You can get pneumonia or worse. Um, and uh, because that's the number one job, that is a very, very strong reaction. When we sing and when we speak, but really when we sing because we're exaggerating those movements, um, they activate the same muscles as swallowing. So I want you to swallow for a second. You can get a let's get a drink of water together. And when you swallow, I want you to feel what is closing, what is moving in your throat when you do that. So go ahead and take a drink. So you might feel everything is just closing very strongly. And that's good. We want that. But when we speak, when we sing, we kind of have to do the opposite. We have to open up all of that, those muscles. We have to open up the tract in order to let sound out because sound comes from our throat. It comes from your vocal cords. Let's see if I can get this right in there, closing, hitting each other and making sound, a vibration. That's where sound comes from. And that's what's vibrating. And we need that sound to come out fully and completely in a way that we're not constantly holding on to. When we constantly do that, the muscles start getting tired. We start straining, pushing, and constricting even more muscles than we were when we were just swallowing in order to get sound to actually come out. And if you start doing that long term, the vocal cords start banging together. Everything just gets so tight and it gets stiff, and it's just really not good for the whole system. And this also includes our jaws, our neck muscles, face muscles, shoulder muscles, and even breath. So if we're super, super tense, I want you to tense up as much as you can. Like you just lifted something really heavy. And you can see, you can feel your jaw muscles, your neck muscles, and maybe you try to take a breath in that stance. It's very, very difficult. So if you're having these patterns of tension, it's going to compound over time, sometimes without us noticing. What I had you do right there was a really, um, really strong version of a really like over exaggerated version of what actually happens. Sometimes we don't even notice. Sometimes we do, but sometimes we don't notice. And this is what was going on with me. It turned out I moved to a very dry climate. And even though I knew how dryness could affect the vocal cords, I didn't realize how much it could. And so, in order to get sound out, the same amount of sound that would be easy to get out in the humid climate that I had learned how to sing and speak, moving here, I had to use extra tension to get out, and I didn't even realize. So my voice was starting to get tired. It was getting hoarse, and I was like, "What is going on? I know how to sing. What's going on?" Um, it was I was just adding so much tension, and the vocal cords were just striking each other really, really hard as well, which was making them swell, and we really don't want that. So singing, let's get into the daily habits. What can you do, basically to help this stuff? So singing is an extension of talking. When we sing, it is just kind of elongated speaking. Sometimes we do manipulate the tract in such a way. There are types of singing, like speech level singing, you can look that up, where it's literally like elongated speaking. um Sometimes you can manipulate things so you have a different kind of tone than what you speak. "Oh, hello." You can add vibrato like I just did. Um, but it basically it's the same mechanisms, just exaggerated. But speaking is where our deepest patterns live. We talk all the time, and those of us, hello, hi, me, who talk a lot in our daily lives, we this is where the habits are being built. And though even if you're an experienced singer, speaking is, sometimes forgotten. So it would be the same for me. It's kind of the same thing as if you go to, lift weights. Say you're squatting really, really heavy weights and you have great form and you're squatting really, really heavy. And then you go home and you unload the dishwasher with your back all curled up, your everyday life, and you go to lift something and, why does my back hurt? That's kind of how it was working for me anyway. With singing, I would have really great vocal posture when I was singing, and then when I was speaking, it would just go down here, like, I'm just talking like this all the time, and then I'm talking louder because I'm at a party, and then why is my voice hurt? Why am I getting so tired? Um, and it was because I just had really bad vocal posture when I was speaking. Um, so we have to realize that speaking is where we're going to learn those patterns. And we can do that by changing pitch, volume, and the tension patterns that we carry all day. So, we're going to talk about registers for a second. So, those of you who are not familiar with vocal registers, we have our chest voice, which is this big, heavy voice. Hello, I am in my chest voice. Then we have our head voice, which is light and floaty, and it's up here. Hello, I'm in my head voice. We have mix, which is everything in between. And mixed voice, I kind of think of it like paint. If you have red paint, which I always see as chest voice, and white paint, then we mix them together and we can mix them in different quantities. We have pink when we mix them together, but we can make a very light pink and we can make a very dark pink and everything in between, a very medium pink. And this is where some of us we tend to hang out in our chest voice because it carries more authority. It is taken more seriously because if you start talking to people like this all the time, they're not going to take you as seriously. And in a way that I have a whole thing about that that I'm gonna not going to get into. I'll talk about that at a different time. But, um, the point is because we're always talking like this, we're actually being really rough on our voices. And those who talk like this all the time, their voices are gonna last and last and last. And we think about a lot of the singers who, kind of sing like this kind of way. I think a little bit Dolly Parton, for example, is still going really strong with her voice. Um, it's just gonna last forever in comparison to those of us who go like this all the time. Well, what we need to do is have a register balance. So some of us, we have a tough time. Most of us, and myself included, have a tough time accessing head register. So head register, we need this falsetto, a light sound. All of it is working the same kind of mechanism, and this is your vocal cord stretched out long, like a rubber band, kind of. And you think about it like clapping. Okay. If I'm clapping like this with my whole hand as hard as I can, my hand's going to hurt. But if I did just the tips like this of my hand, I could do that all day. So that's kind of like the head register. And we need to be able to build that up and access it and get it strong, nice and strong, so that it can help support that chest register. Our chest register, most of us can access it. Some people, if they talk like this all the time, they might have more trouble accessing the chest register. Um, but for this sake, we're going to talk more about accessing that head register because this is going to help bring some of that weight off of those vocal cords. So think about talking to a little kid or maybe you're in customer service or a little puppy. Hello, puppy. How are you? And notice my cheeks are kind of rising up a little bit. Hi, how are you? I know a lot of times we don't want to talk like that. Um, Believe me, as somebody who this is how I naturally like to speak, and this is how I used to speak all the time. Oh my goodness, you should have heard me as a teenager, always down here like this. And as somebody who is a natural low voice, that's where I feel comfortable. But we gotta get used to speaking up in this, "Hello, hi, how are you?" And you can add affectations onto it after a while, but for now, just get used to speaking like this, and you can, practice reading, anything. For example, I have my little notebook here, and I'm gonna read the back of it. And if you don't wanna speak in front of people yet because 'cause you're not comfortable with it, high quality paper resists ink bleed. Water resistant covers protects your notes all year, so you can read a book in that voice, and it helps to get that moving. Um, and so you can do this both in speech and song. So you can speak like that. Maybe when you're practicing your singing, you can start speaking like this. And one of my favorite exercises is a puppy no no, is what I call it. Um, So puppy no no is I'm we're kind of thinking of a puppy no no no, and we're going no 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 no. No, 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 no. So you can keep doing that higher and lower. No, 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 no. There's a point where you have to shift into chest voice and a point where you have to shift into head. But somewhere in that middle range where we normally talk that mixy range, it's good to have that heady mix um, that I've lost my train of thought, that sort of customer service voice. There we go. So practice. This is really, really good. Um, Another thing that you can do is exaggerate your words, articulate. A good way to do this, and I don't have one around me. Let's see. I will just use a cork. Okay. So we got a little cork here. This is just a wine cork. I use these a lot in my singing. And putting it in your mouth and then practice speaking. Practice speaking. So you get your little, you can use Shakespeare if you want to. I don't have Shakespeare with me right now, but college ruled notebook, 200 ruled feet. And it doesn't matter that you're not being um, understood. The point is that you are training yourself almost to speak like an actor. And these muscles that you're using when you're when you're exaggerating are helping to support all of these little tiny muscles. Your vocal cords are only as big as the end of your pinky. They're teeny tiny. They need support. They need help. All of this is like really huge. Really, this is about how big. Well, maybe a little bigger, but right about there. That's about how big that vocal tract is. So this is a really blown up version. It's teeny tiny. It's almost all cartilage and muscle. It needs some help. Okay. Um, so we'll get into a little bit more of that in a little bit, but that's a good way for you to start learning. One more thing is breath, and we'll get into breath in a little bit. But having a good breath support system will help to keep you from pushing everything through. If I have what we kind of call in this being, I say we, I'm not a speech language pathologist, but I have spoken to plenty of speech language pathologists, and they talk about 50% breath when you speak. So you have, oh, this is a lot of breath. Please don't whisper. I'm doing this for an example. Please don't do this in your everyday life. This is so bad for you. So this is whispering. And then that's when I'm letting a lot of breath through. And then I'm really pushing everything through. I'm getting like no breath through. What you want is something kind of 50% in the middle of that. All right. So that's another balance. We really want middle of voice. middle of breath is a good place to hang out. All right, let's go into the deeper care stuff. This is, I know I'm moving fast. This is a lot of information. This will be available for replay. You can, I think I'm going to have some sort of checklist or something that you can go through for this. But take it little bits at a time. Find the thing that you need help with the most and keep working on that. So, we're going to go into deeper care. The number one thing, the thing that helped me the most in helping to cure the vocal edema that I had, my prenodal, it's gone. It's all gone. It's fine. But I have to be super careful, especially in this dry climate. If you are in a dry climate, deserty climate, anything that's below 50% humidity, really take extra care for this. If you're in a humid climate, you still need to do this stuff. You just don't have to be quite as particular. Um, so water, you know, I was going to say it. Let's take a water break, actually. All right. Is that awkward? If you didn't take a drink, that was awkward. If you took a drink, good for you. Um, so water is baseline. Drink. Um, Generally, they say about was it 64 ounces of water, and it all depends on who you are, how big you are, how much salt intake you have, what climate you live in. Um, Generally, you don't want to leave it so that you're thirsty all the time. You should be peeing all the time. You should not have dark pee. Um, if you live in a drier climate like I do, take in much, much more water. I drink about 80 ounces baseline of water a day. And right around, I had surgery about a month ago. Right around then, I was drinking about 100 ounces of water today. And yes, I was going to the bathroom all the time, but my vocal cords were very, very happy with me. Um, so drink a lot of water and don't forget your electrolytes as well, because if you drink a lot of water and then you're prone to hyponatremia, meaning your electrolytes are really, really low and you have too much water, they're not balanced. You need to take in those electrolytes if you're taking in more water. And if you live in a humid climate, like I come from Houston, I needed to take extra electrolytes because um, the amount of sweat and the salt that I was losing was insane. Um, Caffeine and alcohol dehydrate. I am not going to tell you not to drink those things. I drink them myself, especially caffeine. Alcohol, take it or leave it, but and I won't when I'm close to an event. I used to because it would calm my nerves, but that's not a good thing to rely on. There are other really great methods that you can use besides alcohol. So please, please don't depend on that. Caffeine, I won't give up my coffee. I just won't. And the laryngologist was like, "Okay, no caffeine, no spicy foods because reflux, we'll get to that, is a big thing." Um, Drink your coffee, but drink extra water in order to, balance that out because caffeine does dry you out. It's a diuretic. It will, go through your system and dry you out. Like I said, humidity matters. Humid days when I was in Houston, my voice was like butter. It was amazing, especially when it was hot and humid. I did a show one time and it was like, I think it was like 90 something degrees outside. The humidity was 100% because there was a hurricane that was very close by. And it just brought up the humidity levels and the heat levels, and I was dripping with sweat. The poor keyboard players and the guitar players were just slipping around because their hands were sweaty, and my voice was just, oh, it was so easy. So that should have been a clue right there, just how much humidity matters. Um, if you're not in a very humid climate or you have dry times of year, there are things you can do. Steaming is really great. taking a hot shower in the morning and doing a few hums maybe, hum sirens up and down, and really breathing it in. Steam touches the vocal cords, so it directly hydrates. Tea, for example, will not. It might soothe. I really love a good throat coat tea, but the steam really does help so much because it touches the vocal cords. You can also get a nebulizer. You can look those up. You can get them just about anywhere. Little personal nebulizers that are a little bit larger than an inhaler. And you can get some that go over the face, like a mask that goes over the face and in mouth, and some that just directly, like you almost sip it like an inhaler through the mouth. Um, with a saline solution. Don't use the vapor rub kind of stuff. It doesn't need all of that, just a saline, solution. And that I try to do in the mornings. I might just sit in bed and read and have a nebulizer up over my face, and then through the day, um, just taking sips of air, again, that hydrates the vocal folds directly. So drinking water will not hydrate, it or tea doesn't hydrate you directly. You should drink water. That will indirectly, help just hydrate the cells, hydrate you um, overall, which will help plump up the vocal cords, make them nice and pliable, and, so you're not having to use a lot of extra force to get sound out. But if you need direct, especially before a performance or a speaking gig or a party, steam and nebulizing. And you can use, uh, I already forgot what it's called, a humidifier. Um, You can use one of those, but you just have to be very careful about cleaning them because they can mold really easily, and you have a whole set of problems if you're breathing in mold. It's a whole new thing, a whole 'nother thing, I mean. But I have a little personal one that's here. Um, it's just like a little cup, and it has a little filter that I change out, and it's pretty easy to clean. And I just take it with me everywhere. I can put it in the car if I have a long drive. I can put it right here next to my piano, next on my desk while I'm working, right next to me in bed. I have a bigger one for the one in bed, but it doesn't need to be a big one, right? Okay. Now, diet and, exercise. The big ones, I know. I mean, diet and exercise is good for everything. Of course, it's gonna be good for your voice, but there are some particulars about the voice, that will help, keep your vocal tract healthy. And, of course, whole foods, fruits, veggies, healthy fats and proteins, they support vocal tissue. So you just keep eating those things. There are some things that can increase phlegm. Dairy is a big one. Back when I used to consume dairy, I would not consume it anytime near a performance, usually 24 to 48 hours beforehand, because of how much phlegm that it could increase. And I really couldn't stand it, so I didn't have any dairy. Now I don't have dairy at all, but, back in those days, it would be a strict no dairy, and I would highly recommend it for my students as well, and some of those students would take that to consideration. Some people can eat like, drink a pint of milk or something and be fine. Um, I personally didn't like that, wanna take that chance, so, um just, keep track of what it is that produces that kind of symptom for you. And I would, if you can stay away from it, stay away from it. But if you can't, then just keep in mind when you have a big speaking or singing day coming up. try to limit those foods. Um, so certain foods also trigger reflux, and reflux is a huge deal for the voice. Huge, huge deal. And I'm just going to tell you right now the I can never say this word, esophageal sphincter. Try saying that 5 times fast. That is the muscles, that set of muscles that close up to keep the stomach acid from coming from your stomach, and stomach acid is really strong, up into your esophagus, okay? That starts breaking down around the age of 35, 35. All right? That is when I learned that, I was just that is the most wild fact. And reflux becomes more common and more damaging earlier than most people expect because of that. And silent reflux is especially sneaky. So silent reflux is when the stomach acid comes up from your esophagus, up over the edge into your trachea, into your vocal tract, directly into your vocal cords. And that acid is so strong. But because of the lack of nerves that we have in that area, we don't feel it. There's no heartburn. We don't feel that feeling that we get when we get strong heartburn. But the acid is still hitting those folds and breaking them down, and that can make a huge deal. So I'm not going to tell you to take any kind of medications. I'm not going to tell you what to eat and what not to. But I would highly recommend going to a doctor and finding out if this is affecting you. Um, this was another, suspicion that my laryngologist had, of what was going on with my vocal cords, and so, together, we came up with a regimen of different medications that I could take, and certain foods can trigger reflux, and I'm not gonna lie, those foods were my diet, basically. Um, Tomato anything with acid, so tomatoes, chili peppers, onions, citrus fruits, all of these can trigger acid, reflux, and I love those foods, so and I love hot sauce. Like, I will pour hot sauce over anything. I did end up reducing the amount of hot sauce that I had, but I still eat I love my sriracha, I love my Valentinas, I love um, yeah, I love my chili peppers, so I don't I'm not gonna tell you not to take those, but if you can reduce them, that would be great, and if you insist, like, "I have to eat these things," go to a doctor and see if there's a deal that you can work out for that. Exercise, cardio is the best for speakers and singers. It gets the blood flowing, it increases lung capacity, it helps with heart rate. And if you are a singer who moves a lot, say you're in rock, pop, musical theater, I'm a rock singer who loves to jump around on stage, banging my head, twirling around, jumping up and down. Cardio not only helped me to do that without losing, my breath because I wouldn't wanna be up on stage and going like that and trying to sing, right? So it helped with that, but it also increases that blood flow, gets the blood flowing to these muscles, helps to increase the lung capacity. Lung capacity isn't always the answer, but it can certainly help if you can control your breathing. You can coordinate the breathing mechanism, and cardio really does help with that. And I often tell people sing while you're doing cardio or speak while you're doing cardio. So if you go for a run, you put on some headphones and start singing to your favorite song. And who cares? Who cares if somebody hears you? You might, okay, so you can sing quietly, or maybe you're on your Peloton treadmill or something and taking a Peloton class while you're running on the tread in your basement or something. Um, that's absolutely fine too. I say if you can sing in front of people, do it as much as possible and do it while you're doing cardio because that is just going to be so great for your voice, for your lungs, and for your endorphins. double whammy of exercise and singing is really gonna make you feel really great. Swimming is, that is cardio, but swimming in particular is really excellent for lung capacity. I'm thinking about taking that up myself. I've never been a strong swimmer. I can save my own life. That's about how strong of a swimmer I am. Other than that, not very strong. So, I've been thinking about getting back into that. It's really good. Dancing is great, but for serious dancers, ballet and the kind of dancing where you really have to carry a lot of constriction in your abdominal muscles, that can sometimes inhibit the diaphragm from fully coming down. So, if your abs are kind of like rock solid abs, which might be really great, but your diaphragm is like, "Hello, hi, I need to come in," and it won't have any give. So sometimes dancers can have that issue, and they end up breathing really high up in their chest and shoulders, which creates, I mean, just doing that kind of hurts my neck. Um, Lifting weights can be really healthy, and I'm not gonna say don't lift weights, it's so good for you, but it can create a lot of tension and affect the voice, so you just have to be careful. If you're doing a lot of shoulder type stuff, just be very aware of, stretching out the area, massaging the area, and making sure that those muscles don't get so tight, that it's creating constriction all around and not letting your vocal mechanism, your vocal tract move freely because that's what we want. We want it to move freely. Yes. Yay. Okay. Breathing. Most people breathe shallowly, and sometimes they don't even know it. Breathing is a very difficult thing to teach because it is the number one thing we do all day, every day, more than anything else. There's nothing else we do. Maybe blink, I don't know. No, I think we breathe more than we blink. I'll have to look that up. The nerdy part of me is like, "Hmm, which one is it?" Um, but for the sake of my argument right now, we're gonna say it's the thing we do the most. And so it's the hardest habit to break. And if we hold a lot of tension, if we have general anxiety, if we're doing a lot of weightlifting, if we're just used to singing, all these kinds of things, the stress of life, we end up breathing very shallowly. We don't let the diaphragm go down, extend completely down, which helps to give our lungs the room to completely inflate. We also, a lot of people are disconnected from their pelvic floor. It's more of a recent thing that people started talking about because it used to be so taboo. We don't talk about that. But so we don't learn that the pelvic floor is essential for a good extended breath. So that pelvic floor also needs to go down and relax when we inhale. And then when we exhale, come back up. And so your diaphragm is sitting up, and then your pelvic floor, which is another diaphragm. You have multiple diaphragms in your body. Um, they should be moving in sync. So when you breathe in, they're both going down. When you breathe out, they're both coming up. When you speak, when you sing, you are exhaling. You're just exhaling with sound, with your vocal cords coming together. So when you breathe in, that's relaxing. When you breathe out, it's coming up. Now, you're not going to learn it in this video. We have 15 minutes left. I am going to be doing a lot more breathing videos coming up. In May, I'm doing a live stream every day, so I'll probably have a lot of breathing stuff going on in those videos. So you can learn more about it. Stick with me, you'll learn about it. But it is essential. It is the power source of our vocals. And if we have no power force the source, then we're using a lot of these muscles to try to get sound out instead of using our breath support. That is breath support is not just our pelvic floor and our diaphragm, but also our intercostal muscles, those muscles in your ribs and your abdominals, transverse abdominis, all of those muscles, lots of other muscles in your core working together to help, kind of thinking of it as a bellows, kind of helping to squeeze just the right amount of air out that you need. So it's a whole coordinated system. Your next thing that you really need is sleep. I know we all say that for every health related thing, but you need it. You need it. And I know if, for example, you have little children or you have a sleep disorder, that is easier said than done. Um, but if it is something that you can help it. During sleep, our body produces a growth hormone which drives tissue repair. And skimping on sleep means that your vocal folds, your vocal tract are not fully recovering, especially after heavy vocal use. So, if you're somebody who speaks a lot, somebody who sings a lot, especially if you sing really powered vocals, if you're a belter, if you're a rock singer, for example, you're using your vocal cords so heavily. They need time to recover. Please sleep. And then vocal rest. This is the one that's the hardest for me. So I'm going to be a little hypocritical here. I'm not really being hypocritical because I'm also talking to myself. Silence is rest. So if you can, if you have a big gig, if you have a big party, something coming up where you're speaking a lot, um, rest your voice. Before I did this, I knew I was going to be talking for an hour straight. I barely used my voice at all. Just did a little warm up right before. For the rest of the day, hardly at all, because it's like a little vocal nap. And don't whisper. I said this before, whispering feels gentler, but it's not. It actually forces the vocal folds into this weird unnatural position with much more tension and much more friction than normal speech. I once saw a scope of somebody using a somebody whispering, like doing that whisper yell. I don't even want to do it. Doing a whisper yell and the I mean, it was hard to watch because the trauma that goes on through this vocal tracts while whispering it was insane. I was shocked. So please don't try to whisper. I have my own thoughts about whisper singing, which maybe I'll get into in one of my more spicier live streams. But for right now, just it's harder on the voice, not easier. Take it easy. Medications, antihistamine. Before I start this, rewind. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I cannot tell you what medications to take. I cannot advise you on what medications to take. I am only giving you information that you can look up yourself. But please always talk to a doctor before stopping any medication or starting any medication. But I'm just giving you, this is just purely for information. Um, Antihistamines, decongestants, and other things like that, they often dry out the vocal folds. Nasal sprays, things like that, dry out the whole system. It's a water break time. Drink water with me. Awkward. All right. They'll dry out the vocal folds and the vocal tract. So it's just worth knowing what you're taking and seeing if that happens, then you can decide whether or not to take um, allergy medicine. For example, if you're like, well, my allergies aren't that bad and I'd rather have some moisture in my system. You can make that decision with your doctor, um, or you can just take other steps to for extra hydration if you are taking that. So just learn about the side effects of what you're taking and what it does to your vocal tract. All right. So that was most of it. We're going to do a quick recap and then I'll do those questions that people turned in. So knowing that your whether your head register or your chest register is the strongest, do you have a vocal imbalance? If one is weaker, a little bit weaker, my head register is a little bit weaker, but it's balanced. Ah. I didn't do that warmed up very well, but if there is a big ah, little gap in there, or you can't access one or the other, then that's a sign that one of your registers needs strengthening. I have some information in if you're watching this, you can go to my school group if you're not in it already, and you go down to I'm looking at this myself to make sure. You go to the classroom. There's something called What's Holding Your Voice Back, and you can take that and find out if you've got any particular weaknesses in your voice, as well as how to help strengthen those areas. Plus, I'm here. You can always ask me any questions. Um, but speaking up a little bit more into the head register is going to help you to help your voice last a little longer, be a little bit less stressful on your voice. Um, and so I call that the customer service voice. We want to speak in customer service voice. Um, and just having these daily habits of learning how to speak in that way. I forgot you can also massage this area, get massages. You can self massage jaw and neck and shoulders. There are even massages that you can get from professionals that are intraoral. So they will massage the inside of your jaw. I have somebody who does that and oh my gosh, it hurts, but it's so good. And I am overdue for that. So I'm going to book that after this. Um, and then keeping hydrated, water, less caffeine and alcohol, steam nebulizers to hydrate. Especially if you're in lower humidity climate, whole foods, fruits, veggies, healthy fats, proteins, less dairy, and then certain foods triggering reflux. So talking to your doctor about that, getting that checked out, especially if you're over the age of 40, I would say, maybe even 35. um, Exercising cardio is really, really good. Just be careful if you're in any kind of exercise, serious exercise where there's a lot of holding on to tension, just being very careful about that. Breath support really goes a long way in helping to relax these muscles and get a sound out without extra strain. And sleep and vocal rest will help to heal. So, yay! Yay, we got it. Okay. So, I started this live and then forgot to actually bring up my the questions that people asked. I had them already the first time around. Second time, I was so nervous the first time around. I had everything here. I had more than I needed, and now I'm like, where did I put the thing? Okay, come on. And then of course my uh, screen is not working as well as I'd like it to. Let's bring up these questions. I had them. By the way, if you're waiting here, this is a good time for you to drink some water. And if while I'm doing this, you can ask any questions in the school community. You can email me. You can, if you're watching this on a place where you can leave comments, you can leave a comment and I read them all, I answer them. Um, and with any questions that you have, anything at all, I also have a free 30-minute vocal discovery session. So if there's something that you really want to dig into, you can have this time with me to find out very specifically what it is that your voice needs and what direction to go with it. Um, and I just like to answer questions. Of course, I have my one-on-one, my vocal classes, which are both online and in person in Lafayette, Colorado. And if you're wanting one-on-one, I do those as well. So I am getting to. I swear these questions. And I tried to ask, okay, here we go. I found them finally. All right. So, join the school group and you can ask any questions there as well if you're not already on there. But I also have that free 30 minutes. I mean, why it's free. So why not do it? And I can help give you personalized information on what's going on with your voice and where to strengthen it. And I do this for both speakers and for singers. I do specialize in singing, but I've had plenty of speaking students, and like I said, speaking is where the habits are. So this is for speakers as well. Um, okay, what's one thing most people do every day that is the worst on their voice and they don't realize it? Oh my gosh. Whew, not sleeping, not drinking water, yelling, speaking, really far down in their voice, and then just holding a lot of tension like this, instead of just letting it freely go. A lot of people think they have to get louder, and really what they need is, to know how to work the physics of, sound in a tube because our voices are bendy tubes. This is a tube right here. And we have to be able to, if we can get that resonance right and we can get that, know how to get the sound out the right way, we don't need those extra muscles. So that was like 80 answers to that one question. Whispering, actually, but I already answered that one. How much water do you need to drink for it to make a difference? I also said that one. Like I said, I drink 80 ounces of water. I'm 5 feet tall. I'm not a huge person. If you're taller, if you're bigger, you need more water. I've said all that basically. Can you damage your voice permanently, or does it always bounce back? You can damage it permanently. Um, most it's rare to damage it so permanently that you can't bounce back or learn a way around it. Um, there are the person who created the vocal pedagogy that I teach. Her name is Jeannie Levetri, and she has a vocal paralysis. It's permanent. There's nothing she can do to cure that in her vocal cords. But because she's so knowledgeable about the voice, she's worked very hard and she can get around it a lot of the time. Um, like I said, I had vocal edema and pre-nodules, and I bounced back from that. There are surgeries, there are treatments for a lot of things. So it's very rare that something would be so bad that you can't do something about it. Is it too late to fix bad vocal habits if you've had them for years? No, it's just the longer you've had them, the more that you do them, the harder it's going to be to reverse them. But it's not too late. Does stress affect your voice, or is that an excuse? I don't know what that means, but it does. It affects your voice. And I did speak about that. It constricts everything. Why does my voice always sound worse in the morning? Because it hasn't warmed up. It doesn't have all the blood flow it needs. It just like every other muscle, every other part of your body, it just needs some blood flow and to get going um, to really get it to work. So I suggest vocal warm ups, which I also have and share in my school community. And that is it. So May, I'm going to have a every day I'm going to do a live, except for Sundays. I'm going to do a live stream. And so we'll dig into some of these topics. Sometimes we'll do something more fun. Tomorrow I'm going to be talking about um, it's going to be May, and that's going to be a fun one. And but we'll dig into some of these topics as well, and I might share some vocal exercises and things like that with you. Again, if your question wasn't answered or you're just like, ah, that was so much information, I need you to guide me. I'm here. Ask me some questions. I have my school group that I'm always in. I answer comments, answer emails. I I have my free 30-minute session, so why not do that? It's free. Why not? Why not? All right. And I hope that you have a great rest of April. Thank you for joining me again and take care of your voice. Bye.